Story 1. I used to let people steal from Walmart self-checkout lines. When I worked at Walmart, I used to turn the other way when people would steal. The machines had cameras and would beep if the AI saw something go into the bag without ringing it up, and I would just disable it and say, "Okay, all fixed," and walk away. To be honest, I felt that the pay at Walmart didn't pay me enough to argue and fight with the customers, so I just opted out. If someone said the price was cheaper out on the floor, I would just manually adjust the price for them, no questions. Most of the time people were honest, but a lot of the time people were stealing and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. Now that I don't work there, I totally know all the ways to steal from self-checkouts. One clever way I saw was to have a companion have a problem at a self-checkout a few machines down. While the cashiers are helping them, people would put whatever they wanted to steal in the bags and don't scan them. Another way I saw was to use the scanning guns. People would load all their food in reusable shopping bags as they shop, then they'd pull out a few cheaper items and scan them, then walk out. Basically paying a little, but getting more. I realize the door people don't know what the codes are on the receipt because it's usually all hyphenated so badly nobody knows what's what. As long as people don't look suspicious and say bye, or have headphones, we can ignore them. A few times when I was put on door I would just pretend to look. I was told if it's not a bag, look for that item, but bulky items like brawny paper towels 12 pack was labeled branch pap T12. 12.99 on the receipt, and even if I didn't see it I just let them go. I wasn't about to get stabbed for a $13 per hour job. Story 2. When my father called and informed me about my mother's death, I told him to hang up and call later because I was just about to go to bed. When my father called me in the middle of the night and told me that my mother had passed away, I told him to hang up and call me later because I was about to go to bed. I was already stressed by other things in my life. It was about 4 in the morning when I finally felt I could sleep. I had my television on static and was playing Temple Run when a phone call from my father came in. He wasn't crying, but his voice was dejected and melancholic. He told me that my mother had just passed away in the hospital. My first thought was, why are you telling me this right now? My parents lived on the other side of the country. I knew my mother was ill, but they'd never share details of her illness with me even though I insisted multiple times. I didn't even know she was hospitalized until my father's phone call informed me of her death. When he called, I could feel a growing annoyance inside me. I wasn't sad or grieving, at least not that I was aware of. My response to the news he brought was, I was just about to go to bed, and now I am perturbed. If you say anything else right now, I'm going to stay up all night. Hang up the phone and call me later. Good night. That was an asshole move. An awful thing to do, but at that moment, all I felt was annoyance. When I woke up the next day and thought about the news, I felt like my heart was being carved straight out of my chest cavity. I gasped once or twice and shed a few tears but didn't fully cry. I thought about how I responded to my father when he called, and I loathed myself for it. I don't know how I can be such a heartless piece of shit and live with it. All I thought about was myself. I prioritized my sleep over comforting my father and greeting my mother. I'm an asshole. I think there is something wrong with me. I know there is, and I hate myself for it. But I also know that no matter how much I hate myself, I'm going to continue living this shitty life, with my shitty self. I will do more absurdly selfish things like this and pity myself for them. I will hate myself more and more and somehow continue to live. Story 3. I ignored a friend in need because I was too tired. When I was 18, I lived alone in a studio apartment. It was sandwiched between two one-bedroom apartments. The neighbors to the right of me was a nice, but kind of weird couple. It was a charming weird though. They had a baby on the way. I met the girlfriend through my job. She was a regular at the restaurant I worked at. She had a service dog and we'd always make sure they were fed well. I was homeless at the time and she heard about it from a coworker. She told me there was an apartment available. I moved in shortly after and met her boyfriend. He was a biker dude and came off as tough, but was really nice with a bit of a nutty side. A few months go by and they have their baby. Beautiful baby boy. Everything was going well. She had a lot of allergies and got sick a few weeks later. The boyfriend would usually knock at random times just to smoke a cigar with me and talk. I was tired and had just worked a 13-hour shift, normal for me, but I worked every day. It was around 5 a.m. when I heard knocking on my door. This knocking seemed different. I was too tired to answer, so I rolled over and went back to sleep. Then my phone started going off. I ignored it. More banging, which I ignored as well. I finally woke up for work and was headed out when I saw the neighbors gathered around outside. The girlfriend died from an allergic reaction, and the boyfriend was trying desperately to wake me up for help. I now always answer the door or the phone, no matter how tired I am. Jeremy, I hope you and your baby boy are doing well. Story 4. I've been time stealing from Amazon warehouse delivery station. Been clocking in on time when I've been over an hour late multiple times, probably stole over 10 hours so far. I think they haven't done anything yet because they're building a case. I also stole a pack of SpongeBob stickers. I found it on the floor though with no package around it. If I saw the package it was supposed to be in, then I would have put the stickers back for problem solved to fix the package. Story 5. I rob my boss any chance I get and he didn't notice it for 5 years. For context, I work in a small shop that is not accessible by car, so I have to carry all the stuff in my hands from the closest road, 5 km, and sometimes I have to go 5 or more times if there's a lot of things to carry. My boss expects me to do this every 3 days before my actual shift starts, and he only pays me for the opening hours, which is 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So whenever I'm in the shop and for 3 or more hours no customers show up, I close early and leave while my boss still pays me for the full day. Also, there are same items that are sold in different prices, for example various drinks that when bottled are sold for cheaper than when poured into a glass, so sometimes I count those poured drinks as sold in bottles and take the extra money, or just take the extra drink that would get covered by those money. My boss is unsuspecting. Story 6. I committed a hit and run in a family member's car and lied about who was driving. Earlier this year I was driving a family member's car to get used to driving more. I had been doing so for a while, and one particular day I was attempting to lane change with another family member to avoid something that stopped traffic ahead of me while turning. A white Toyota entered my blind spot and the front side collided with the side of the Toyota. Luckily, I swerved back into the lane I was in originally and avoided any further damage aside from paint being scratched. We both turned off onto opposite sides of the road and were unable to exchange any information, but the entire side of the Toyota was painted black from the collision. I made many attempts to contact my family member to tell them about what happened, but they did pick up after multiple calls, so the other family said they would take the fall for me, and that was agreed upon. The Toyota driver then gave a thumbs up after analyzing the side of the impact, and we both drove off without exchanging any insurance information or involving law enforcement. I feel terrible about this, and it has been on my conscience since it happened, and I have still refused to tell my family member the truth of what happened, as they will murder me and throw my body in a McDonald's dumpster. Story 7. I stole lots of food from supermarkets for food banks. During my food shop I would grab all sorts of food, pet stuff, etc., walk past the tills and put it straight into the baskets to go to food banks. Nobody would ever pull me up on it because they'd assume I've paid for it, plus I'm giving it to charity, so even if they think I might not have, there was that feeling of being untouchable. I figured the supermarkets have enough money and should take the bill for it. When I told some people about it a year or two ago, they all cursed me out for it. I haven't done it since. Story 8. I lied to the workers selling brand name donuts by hand, signaling that I couldn't speak. Twice a week I would buy name brand donuts from the store pretending I couldn't speak at all to get extra pastries for free because they thought I was handicapped, but always saw me parking my car in the front of the store. Story 9. I used to steal Yu-Gi-Oh cards from the local Kmart because I found a way to. When I was younger and Kmart was still a thing, by the exits there would always be Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, baseball cards, stuff like that. I somehow learned that in a certain spot there, no cameras could see you, and so I ended up stealing about 2 full decks worth of Yu-Gi-Oh cards from the Kmart when I was younger. Since then, probably 12 years ago, I've realized how wrong it was, but as a 10 to 11-year-old, I didn't regret it. Story 10. I quit my horrendous job, but I told my friends I got fired. I recently retired from the military and began looking for a permanent position. I took a job in the fall of last year with high hopes that it would carry me over to permanent retirement. It paid very well and was for a company that makes billions in revenue every year. However, about a month in I realized why my position was constantly open. The boss was extremely toxic. She called meetings just for the sake of calling a meeting and made her employees' lives a living hell. I grew to hate waking up every day and dreaded the first phone call from her, which usually involved her sending me on a wild good chase for something that was pointless. I made to the spring but couldn't handle my boss anymore. However, people in my family don't quit. We endure even if it ruins our mental and physical health, but even if other options are out there, we don't quit. In March our company had layoffs, and I honestly prayed I was one of the few being let go. I wasn't. My family heard about the layoffs and wondered if I was one of them being let go. Before I could think straight, I said yes, so sad, but I am being let go. I put in my notice, making sure not to burn bridges with my toxic boss in spite of how sick of her I was. I was able to get a new job quickly, with comparable pay and benefits, that I loved, so financially I was fine, but my family went around telling everyone that I got laid off. I don't regret leaving whatsoever, but I regret lying and now having to sustain it. I know I was wrong, but I felt desperate. Story 11. The times I stole a ham toy from Toy Story and a big yellow Imaginext castle. Both of these incidents had to do with a currency at our school that we could use to buy actual items, like toys, gizmos, anything a young child would dream of. And on both of these occasions, did I not have the currency to buy any items, and instead chose to steal the items my classmates bought. I have successfully moved on from both of these incidents, as they'd now become a laughing stock to me. This first instance occurred in 2014, as previously stated. I was in kindergarten at the time, and from what I can recall, we would go to these classrooms turned into mini shops that would sell the items and use the school's currency as payment. I do faintly remember getting some items, but this one particular incident I remember well. We go to the shop again, and I either didn't have any currency for the shop, or I was misbehaving. Either way, seeing other people be able to get things that I couldn't, made younger me extremely jealous. One of my classmates happened to get a ham toy from Pixar's Toy Story. Keep this in mind. When returning to the classroom, I had a devious plot: steal ham from my classmate and try to get away with it scot-free. The plan was, I'd go to the backpack cubbies where all the backpacks were, and being perfectly concealed in a position where nobody would figure out what I was doing, I'd steal the ham toy and put it in my backpack. I don't recall what my excuse was, but I got away scot-free with no repercussions. At least, so I thought. The classmate whom I stole it from was very angry, and it would take a long period of time for him to let go of his anger and accept my countless apologies. I don't currently know where I hid the ham toy, but I do remember it was in my closet. Now, this wasn't the only incident I'd steal from someone who bought from the gift shop at my school. The second time was now in first grade, and feeling lucky in being under the same circumstances as last time, I took my chances. I tried stealing again, except from a different person this time. Problem was, they had saved up to buy a huge yellow Imaginext castle. Younger me for sure thought I could get away with sneaking a huge yellow castle into my bag. I was wrong, for instead I got caught and, if I remember correctly, was told off by both the principal and a sheriff that stealing and theft were wrong. Thankfully I was left off with a warning, but had some explaining to do to my grandparents, who had to pick me up early. Story 12. I pushed my sister down the stairs, then covered it up. When I was 12, I was practicing for a duet I was going to play with my 15-year-old sister. On the night of the recital, I got mad because I kept messing up one note. I ended up throwing my violin down the stairs. She saw this and got really mad at me, and we got into an argument. I tried to run, but she was blocking my path. I pushed her without realizing the stairs were right behind her. She ended up dying to the fall. My best friend at the time walked into the room right after this, and we decided to hang her. I have been secluding myself in my room for the last 4 years now, and I'm going to move away in 4 days. Should I go outside and talk to my old friends? Should I tell them the truth? I know they deserve to know, but I don't know if I can handle that. Conclusion. These stories provide us with a glimpse into the complexities of human behavior and the choices we make in difficult situations. They show the potential for both selfishness and compassion within us. These stories offer us a chance to reflect on our own actions and choices. What would you do in these situations? How do we balance our own needs and desires with the impact they may have on others? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video, and see you in the next one.